What would happen if the power went off and stayed off? Could that really happen? How vulnerable are America's power grids? This is America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Because if you're worried about the government watching what you do online, you're going to want a reliable VPN to hide your identity. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit New York, and it even dared to hit my apartment. Sorry for my casual appearance. When it floods, I wear my less nice suits. But you know what was the worst part? Not the flooding, not the extensive property damage. I'm talking about not being able to charge my iPhone because the power was out. It was the worst 3 days of my life. Anyway, remember that blackout in New York City in 2003? Beautiful. Unless you were in the city, in which case it was a nightmare, with people sleeping on the streets. On the plus side, in 2003, no one had iPhones to charge. But what's scary is a major loss of power could happen again at any time, even in 2019. Alright guys, time to hit the panic button. Wait, if the power's out, then the panic button won't work either. Anyway, America's power grid is critical to our lives, and not just for our iPhones. All 16 sectors of the U.S. economy that make up the nation's critical infrastructure rely on electricity. And even relatively minor disruptions can be a big deal. That 2003 power grid collapse I mentioned left 50 million people on the East Coast without power for 4 days. It caused economic losses between $4 and $10 billion. There were rumors that the outage was caused by Chinese hackers, though the official report says the hackers were actually overgrown trees. But even though it was trees and not Chinese hackers, that article also says that China's People's Liberation Army in 2003 had gained access to a network that controlled electric power systems serving the northeastern United States. So you can still be terrified. You can be terrified of hackers and trees. And to demonstrate the power of grid hacking, in 2015, Russian hackers shut down a part of Ukraine's power grid and sowed chaos. An extensive grid hack scenario in the US would wreak major havoc. How major? Lloyd's of London, an insurance underwriter, worked out a realistic scenario for an attack on the Eastern Interconnection, one of the two major electrical grids in the United States. It powers about half the country. The hypothetical attack would leave 93 million people without power and cause $243 billion worth of economic damage. Oh, and a small rise in death rates as health and safety systems fail, while darker scenarios envision scarcity of water and food, deterioration of sanitation, and a breakdown in security leading to a societal collapse. Okay, societal collapse seems a bit extreme. I mean, I don't understand how people can live without their iPhones, but it should be theoretically possible. In fact, according to my parents, people didn't even used to have the internet. Anyway, when it comes to the U.S. power grid, one senior Air Force general says that the threat comes partly from the fact that technology has come to play such a huge part in our lives.
And as the world evolves and as technologies are invented, they become weapons for those that have evil intent. Cyber has become a weapon for those that are evil. And so we as a civilization have become very dependent on cyber. We use our banking, our transportation, our life. It's everything.
General Quast told the Washington Free Beacon that another reason America's grid is so vulnerable to attack is because it was built without electronic or other types of attacks in mind. Among the potential man-made threats are nuclear-produced electromagnetic pulses. For example, take a blast from a nuclear weapon. Experts say that if detonated miles above the United States, a nuclear blast could cause a catastrophic power outage affecting an estimated 318 million people for 30 days. Even an electromagnetic pulse caused by a natural solar flare could be damaging. According to this report, it could cause fly-by-wire airplanes to fall out of the sky. The threat of an EMP is so significant, in fact, that in March, President Trump signed an executive order directing federal agencies to develop responses to the potential damage electromagnetic pulses could do to critical infrastructure. General Quast added that while people focus on the flashy, headline-grabbing threats like a nuclear bomb or a solar flare, America's grid could just as easily be compromised by small-scale, pinpoint strikes using sophisticated hacking tools. I know people get stuck in this mindset that it has to be a nuclear detonation in space to create this, but that's just not true, Quast says. Our adversaries can design tactical electromagnetic weapons that can target very tactical and specific things. Specific things like an individual computer, a small network, or a military base. And our two favorite frenemies, China and Russia, are the ones most interested in trying to exploit America's weaknesses. Just look at the first cardinal rule of cyber attack. If there is a vulnerability in any system, it will be exploited.
Now think about this for a second. There are those out there who will literally try and hack absolutely everything within their capability. Now this could be the more basic exploit, like the person who figured out how to cover their car's license plate to go through an automatic toll booth for free. Or this could be the more obscure, such as infecting a complex computer network to derail an entire illegal nuclear weapons program.
Espinosa is referring to a top-secret cyber attack that destroyed critical equipment used in Iran's illegal nuclear program about a decade ago. Codenamed Stuxnet, it was a cyber worm dubbed one of the greatest technical blockbusters in malware history. It was the subject of a terrifying documentary called 0 Days.
The so-called Stuxnet worm is specifically designed, it seems, to infiltrate and sabotage real-world power plants and factories.
It came out later that the Stuxnet virus was developed by the US and Israel as a way to hurt Iran's nuclear program by making their centrifuges spin out of control and fly apart.
And instead of sending back to the computer what was really happening, it would send back that old data that it had recorded. And so the computer's sitting there thinking, yep, running at 1,000 hertz, everything's fine. Running at 1,000 hertz, everything's fine. But those centrifuges are potentially spinning up wildly. A huge noise would occur. It'd be like, a jet engine. So the operators then would know, whoa, something is going wrong here.
The bug not only fooled the centrifuge operators into thinking everything was fine when it was disintegrating, but it also prevented fail-safes from working. All in all, Stuxnet ended up destroying about 1/5 of Iran's nuclear weapons centrifuges. That's good news if you think Iran's nuclear program is a threat to America. And also bad news if you think viruses like Stuxnet, in the wrong hands, could be a major threat to America. Thank goodness there's no virus like that poised to take out our electrical grid. Wait, what's that, Shelley? An industrial cybersecurity company just identified a cyber attack in the works against electrical utilities in the US? According to MIT Technology Review, a Russia-linked group called Xenotime has been laying the early groundwork for potential attacks on power companies in America. Xenotime is the group that came up with its own Stuxnet-like worm called Triton. It's a bug that can disable safety systems that are the last line of defense against serious industrial accidents. But at least that report from June 2019 says that the cybersecurity company believes the probing of targets is still at a very early stage, and the firm hasn't found any sign, so far, that the Xenotime group has been able to penetrate systems and introduce the Triton malware. Phew, what a relief.
I have zero doubt in my mind that currently critical infrastructures in the Western world already have malwares inside, just ready for someone to press that red button and shut off a power grid.
The weapons are loaded, essentially.
I think so. That's exactly the definition I would use.
That's not good. Which is why the U.S. Cyber Command is going on the offensive. America's military cyber squad has reportedly upped their game by placing potentially crippling malware in Russia's power grid systems. This has been going on since at least 2012, but it has gotten far more aggressive over the past year, one senior intelligence official told the New York Times. We are doing things at a scale that we never contemplated a few years ago. Perhaps, as the old saying goes, the best defense is a good offense, especially when you have no other defense. Personally, I look forward to the power grid war being made into a cyber espionage thriller on Netflix, if there still is a Netflix. So, what do you think about the vulnerabilities to power grids? Leave your comments below. And this episode has been sponsored by Surfshark, because when it comes to going online, the best defense is a good VPN. See, sometimes I go online to look at stuff I don't want the government to know I'm looking at. I'm talking about researching vulnerabilities to our power grid. I'm a journalist, not a terrorist. That's why I use Surfshark to hide my identity. And so should you. It also has a cool clean web feature that blocks ads and malicious websites. Try out Surfshark now with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus, Surfshark has a special discount for America Uncovered fans. Go to surfshark.com/uncovered and use the code UNCOVERED to get 83% off a 2-year plan. Plus, get 1 extra month free. Protect yourself online. Click the link below. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.